gas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Gas, All Georgia Sports. I'm glad you guys are here, and happy Monday, and way to go, Falcons. What'd I tell you? I told you this team was sneaky. I told you this team was better than we think. You know, I mean, we lost the first two games to two very good teams by a combined total of 5 points. Took them to the last possession of those games. We just kind of made some really costly errors in those losses. And, you know, you kind of say, did we lose or did they beat us? You can make a case for each. But I've been saying this team, it's just, I like what they're doing. I like the depth that they've got. I like the moves that the front office has made. I like our coaching. Even with some of the kind of bonehead moves that we see being the Monday morning quarterbacks that we are from Arthur Smith, I don't think that he's really blown it. I think he's great. I'm a huge Arthur Smith fan. So, way to go, Falcons. We get our first win over the Seahawks, and I'm going to get into that. We're going to do a full Falcons recap. We're going to do an NFL Week 3 recap, just kind of generally. We're going to talk a little Braves baseball. But before we do any of that, as always, I'm going to start the show off with a trivia question for you guys. And the trivia question is Falcons themed, of course. How can it not be after a day like today? You know, it's one win. I get it, but I'm excited. Your trivia question is, what Falcons coach has the most wins in franchise history? Who is the winningest coach of all time for the Falcons? So see if you know it. Many of you might. This might surprise some of you. I don't know. But we're going to circle back around to that at the end of the episode, as always. And to kick things off, we're going to stay right on theme with the Falcons. 27-23 over Seattle today. What a game. The Falcons have not disappointed with, the excitement level in some of these games. I mean, really, every single game that we've played has been within one score. The final score was at least within a touchdown or a field goal in a lot of instances. So, yeah, I mean, tight game today, too. Tight game against Seattle. And Geno Smith looks great. I want to say he was rocking like an 83% completion percentage in the first half. I don't know how much that dropped off in the second half necessarily. I can look at that, but dude was really efficient. Our defense, to me, is the storyline for this game because, you know, in all of these blown leads, even going back to 28-3, you know, you just look at, like, the defense, and at some point in the fourth quarter, they just stop getting any pressure. Secondary's playing way too soft. Receivers seem to get wide open, and we just kind of crumble. If a team speeds up on the Falcons and starts playing fast in the fourth quarter, we're done. And we blow it constantly, game in and game out. At least, you know, I know that we have, I can't even remember exactly how many it is, but like of the biggest blown leads in the last 5 years, the Falcons account for across the league like 60 or 70% of those blown leads. I don't know if it's quite as high as 70%, but it might be 60. It's really bad. So to me, the fact that the defense held strong, because they started off really weak. I mean, going into halftime, the score was 20-17. Seahawks were up. So it was a shootout in those first couple quarters. I mean, it was really exciting, honestly. It was just like, because the Falcons' offense was unbelievable. I'm going to get to them in a second. But the defense, for me, is the storyline because we tried to blow it. We tried to blow it yet again in the fourth quarter. Marcus Mariota needs to chill, dude. He needs to chill with these fourth quarter mistakes. He had that fumbled snap in the Saints game in the fourth quarter that was really costly. You could say that lost us the game, or you could say a million other plays did, but that was a huge deal. He had that pick in the Rams game, and, you know, do you put that on him or do you put that on the play calling? I don't know. Regardless, it was a high throw. And so, you know, he throws that pick, you know, pretty much seals our fate, even though we had the last, you know, Hail Mary attempt at the end, but he took the sack. But and then in this game, he fumbles a handoff to Tyler Algier, and as soon as that happened, Robbie, DJ Whisper, I know you're out there, buddy. He texted me and he's like, really, we can't get one? Like, why? Like, just I could hear the heartbreak in his text. And so the fact that the Falcons, because historically speaking, as soon as something like that happens, the defense crumbles, they win, and we know the story from there. I would have been the same type of podcast like it's been the last couple weeks with the Falcons. But the fact that they not only held them, but they did it by getting pressure on the quarterback, to me is a huge deal because that's at least last year, that was the weakest part of our defense. If you're going to pick one, we had a lot of weak parts, but we were last in the league with QB pressures. And in the fourth quarter, our pass rush just goes away. So Grady Jarrett had a huge sack at the end of the game. Lorenzo Carter had a huge sack at the end of the game. And I think that's goes to show like why I'm really impressed with this front office with the depth that we've been acquiring, because a guy like Lorenzo Carter, I want to say it was either him or Leonard Floyd. It might have been Leonard Floyd now that I think about it, but there was a UGA coach that said that one of those two guys was the best players they've ever coached, just talent-wise, just pure athletic ability. And both of those guys have it, so it could be Floyd, could be Carter, but we'll say it's Carter for now. Why not? Just for the sake of excitement. But to pick up a guy like that in free agency, that's huge to me. All the depth that we can get, please, God, give it to the defensive line. We need it. It was cool to see Troy Anderson out there again. He had 3 tackles today. He had that big block punt against the Rams last week. But I'm just going to do a little plug for Troy Anderson. If you guys don't know about him, I've covered him on the show before, but we got him, drafted him in like maybe the 3rd round. It could be off. Yeah, I think it was 3rd. I think he was our 3rd pick, but he's a linebacker out of Montana State. But while he was at Montana State, he won like the Offensive Player of the Year as a quarterback, or Big Sky Player of the Year, or something like that. That's the conference, like the Big Sky Conference. And then the next year, he was like the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year as a running back for Montana State. And then he was like the Defensive Player of the Year in his senior year as a linebacker. So the dude's an absolute beast. He's just one of those athletic generational type athletes. And yeah, I get it. He was playing in the Big Sky Conference. What's his competition? I don't know. But if you're doing that consistently and you're that much better than everyone else that you're playing, you're going to get attention. And he certainly did, because he got drafted high for being from a school that small. And so just cool to see that he's contributing at the next level with that block punt last week, getting a few tackles today. I think he's going to continue to impress. So keep your eye out for Troy Anderson. Really, really good rookie. And to see our second-year players, like guys like, who is it, Michael Walker? He's awesome. He's going to be, I think, making a lot of noise. Let me make sure I got that name right. Why am I feel like I'm having a total brain fart right now? Michael Walker. He had 8 tackles today. Rashawn Evans had 9 tackles. That's another good pickup that we got. Rashawn Evans. Just adding depth, guys that you might not think about as these huge moves, but when you put them all together, you got Rashawn Evans, Lorenzo Carter. The way that we've drafted defensively, I like where this team is going. A.J. Terrell, I think, had a better game today, although he's actually struggled at the beginning of the season. But to bring it all back around, the storyline for me is the defense today, because they were able to actually stop that stupid momentum that we constantly see our opponents get late in games. And they got it done. And they got it done by getting pressure on the QB. Very poetic. Awesome way that they did that today. So go Falcons, go defense. And the offense, man, they looked incredible. I mean, really, the first half, even like no one scored for either team in the fourth quarter. But in the first half, it was like both teams were just driving. And Mariota looked like an absolute stud. I mean, he was efficient. He was moving around in the pocket. He was making really good decisions. He's playing courageous, in my opinion, because he's making these deep throws with this like one-on-one coverage. And like, you see some of these guys that come in that might not be like the star QB, let's say you want to call him a game manager. You see a lot of dink and dunk kind of passes, a lot of passes out to the flats, a lot of check downs, a lot of 5-yard outs, a lot of 10-yard crosses maybe. But the dude's slinging it. He's throwing the ball like 25 yards across the field on the sideline. He's throwing it up, giving guys like Kyle Pitts a chance in one-on-one coverage, which is great. Drake London's been making a lot of good plays. Kyle Pitts finally had a game today, which is fantastic. But Mariota really, really impressed me, other than just, having a late game mishap like he's done every single game so far this year. So he has to stop with that shit. Like, it's bad. You stop with the fumbles, stop with those just weird mistakes that just shift the momentum of the entire game. That's a huge deal. But other than that, I'll give him a pass just because we won. He did have 1 interception today, but it was on the last play of the half. So it was one of those like, it was a dumb play, and Arthur Smith owned up to it. He's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. That was stupid, because there was 5 seconds left. we were on like our own 30, and they call a pass play, and he throws a pick, but it was like a 15-yard pass kind of over the middle. So it's like you're not really taking a shot at that point. So just go to half. But that was the only pick that he had. That was the only turnover he had before that fumble. So I'll give him a pass on that pick. That was a fluke pick, fluke interception. After he went down, they went to half, and it was all done. They get the ball back. So Mariota's final stats was 13 for 20 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. And, you go 13 for 20, you go, man, we didn't really throw that much. But to think on 13 completions to have 229 yards, he's making some deep completions. He's making some good throws, some accurate throws downfield. He looked fantastic today. So good job, Marcus Mariota. He looked like he didn't look like a filler guy today. He didn't look like the guy that's just kind of filling the gap before Desmond Ridder comes up or whoever we draft next. You know what I mean? Like, he looked like a really good quarterback today. And time will tell if that's just more of a shot at Seattle's defense or an ode to Atlanta's offense. Who knows? But he did it. He did it. So good job, Mariota. Drake London continues to impress. He had 3 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown. But when he has the ball in his hands, he's an animal. He looks different. He just he's just aggressive. His yak is contested. You know what I mean? Like he's jumping over people. He's running into people. He's powerful. He's a big guy. He's tall. He's 6'4". So, yeah, Drake London just continues to impress. Cordero Patterson is our best player, CP, baby. He had, get this, CP today had 17 rushing attempts for 141 yards and a touchdown, 8.3 yards per carry. He also had 1 reception for 12 yards. So that's 153 all-purpose yards with the touchdown. And yes, I did start him in both of my fantasy leagues today, so what's up? He's our best player. Dude's 31 years old, and he's running like a 23-year-old. It's funny, one of the announcers alluded to this today, and it was very true, but just the stark contrast between watching Patterson run and then Tyler Algier, who's a rookie, a young guy. He's got a lot to learn, but Patterson's just so much more decisive. He just plants his foot in the ground, finds that hole, finds whatever angle he wants to attack with, and goes for it. There's no hesitation in his game. And he had a leap. Oh, my God. Speaking of leaps, last week it was Drake London, and today it was Cordero Patterson. He leaped over a guy. It looked like he jumped over the entire team. It was in the fourth quarter too late when we were driving down to kind of run some clock. And that was an epic jump there. But, yeah, CP's he's our best player. I mean, what an awesome story. And you know what's cool about him, too? Because he's our punt return guy. He's officially listed as a wide receiver, but he's our starting running back. I mean, I don't know. He's just he's awesome. He's doing it all. And last year when they asked him, how do you feel about doing 3 different jobs? He was like, well, my mom worked 3 jobs when I was growing up, so I don't think I can complain about it. I'm here for it. Let's go. And what an awesome answer. What a great dude. And what's also cool about CP is that he's very interactive with the fans. He doesn't shy away from giving autographs. I've gone to a few games now, and I've seen him. He'll like play catch with people in the stands rather, in pregame. And he's like, he just seems like a good person. So, I believe that's the case with him. So that just kind of is a nice cherry on top for CP. So great game from him. Kyle Pitts got involved today, which was great to see. He had 5 receptions for 87 yards. They were really targeting him heavily in the first half. The first play of the game was a deep shot to Kyle Pitts. And honestly, it looked like he could have got it, but it was like the sun was like right in his eyes. Like it looked like he was just getting blasted by the sun when that first throw went up. But it was a little overthrown. But he had beat his guy. It was one-on-one coverage deep. They drew up a play just for him to get the game started, and they took their shot. But that's kind of like the theme offensively for me, which is cool, is that they're just taking shots. Like they're not playing scared. They're not playing conservative. They're not playing this run first and just kind of short pass, kind of boring football that I just hate seeing. They were slinging it, man. So Marcus Mariota, great job. Just chill out on that late game weirdness. Speaking of weirdness, late game, this game actually had a delay because of a security concern on the field. So the referee comes out and says there's a security timeout. please all players exit the field. And I'm sitting there thinking like, is there like a bomb? Like, is there an active shooter? I mean, I'm thinking like the worst case scenario here. Turns out there was a drone flying around on the field. And apparently the night before too at the Washington game, I think it was Washington-Stanford, the exact same thing happened where there was a drone on the field and they had to pause the game, pull all the players off, and so it happened 2 days in a row. Maybe it's the same guy. Maybe there's a serial dronist out there in Washington. Kind of hilarious. I mean, it's not, but it is, whatever. I'm not there. It's like knowing what we know now, the fact that it's some probably kid with a drone just going, dude, check it out. It's kind of hilarious. So yeah, some late game weirdness there too. But all in all, great win for the Falcons. We are now 1-2, and man, I'm still very, very encouraged with how this team is playing. I'm encouraged with how they finished. And, I've heard this before. I've heard this plenty of times, but a lot of ex-NFL players will say that you really know what a team's about after about week 4. After week 4, you've had enough time to see how the team is preparing throughout the week. You get a good feel for the locker room and the energy in the locker room. Who are your leaders? How well are people practicing and like what kind of rhythm are we getting into? People getting their routines. And so by week 4, you really kind of teams are settled. And I believe that. I mean, just think about what the last think of last year, for example. The Carolina Panthers went 4-0 in their first 4 games, and then they fell off a cliff. So after week 4, people start figuring things out, and the real good teams, and you hear this all the time from coaches and players, but the teams that succeed in this league are the ones that continue to get better week in and week out. They continue to improve slowly but surely, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and then before you know it, Falcons are hosting the Lombardi. Don't think that's going to happen, but still really fun to watch them right now, and just fun to see some of these players come into their own. So can't wait for next week against the Browns. I will be at that game, of course, because it's a home game. Only one home game that I'm going to have to miss. Excuse me. I'm still getting over this sickness, by the way. I've been sick for like 12 days, and I'm not sick enough to have to call out of work or, not do anything, but I'm just sick enough to know that I'm sick, and it's extremely annoying. So I don't know what's going around. Maybe I got sick twice. I don't know. That's possible, but yeah, 12 days, man, this shit's got to go, but enough out of me. On to the rest of the NFL. Hell of a week. So just to continue this statistic, I'm going to keep this stat going, by the way. But so far, and right now, the Sunday night football game is going on. So we still have 2 games left. We have Sunday night football and Monday night football. But of the 46 games played so far in the NFL, 56% of them are decided by 1 score or less. Now, I cheated slightly on this stat because I lumped in 2 games today that were decided by 8 points. So I considered that 1 score. I can't remember if I did that last week when I gave these statistics, but I think, whatever. If you're bent out of shape for me doing that, then, it is what it is. But the fact that more than half of the games that we're seeing are decided within 1 score just goes to show, once again, that the NFL is the best product in sports. 100%, hands down, not even close. Keep it up. Fantasy, you know what? Before we get into the full Week 3 recap, let's just see. How am I doing in fantasy football? No one cares about your fantasy team, John. That's true. No one cares. No one cares. Okay, doing good. Projected to win in both leagues. Look at that. What's up? Oh, yeah. Cordero Patterson, dude. 141 yards and a touchdown, please. Dude's a beast. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase have been quiet, though, and Darren Waller. Man, those types of pickups, I got Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in one league, and I was like, man, how great is that? I get 2 top 10 receivers. Somehow they fall to me, and they've been my worst players. So that goes to show, really, your games are won in fantasy between rounds 6 and 12, and then with waiver wire pickups. I'm not a huge trader, but I will. I've traded before, but waiver wire, free agents, and those late rounds, man, that's where your teams are won and lost there. But going on to the NFL, quick recap of the scores here. So Browns beat the Steelers. That was kind of a snooze fest, actually. I don't know if anyone else had that impression too. Although George Pickens made a catch that rivaled Odell Beckham's catch. I say that, I don't know if I mean, it was in that category because it was a one-handed catch as he's falling backwards, and there's a certain angle that makes it look just as impressive as Odell's catch back in the day. But George Pickens, what have I told you guys? I've been saying he's been going viral in training camp this entire offseason. The dude's been making plays like, you just kind of scroll through Steelers Twitter or whatever. Maybe George Pickens has got a Twitter handle. I haven't checked, but he's had so many unbelievable looking plays in practice that, yeah, it's just cool to see, dogs in the NFL, man. I love following these guys. And, Isaiah McKenzie's a guy that's really coming to his own in the NFL. He's become an absolute stud for the Bills. So, yeah, cool to see. But that was, to me, the highlight of the Steelers game. Bills-Dolphins, man, this was an incredible game. Going into this week, this was kind of touted as the game of the week, appropriately so, and it did not fail to live up to the hype. So, Dolphins win 21-19. And there's a theme that I found this week, and the theme is that tempers have been flying around like crazy. So I'll go ahead and say this because we're on the Bills-Dolphins game, but there's a couple of clips from this game. One, Josh Allen freaked out at the end. It was kind of poor clock management, and he threw his helmet down. You kind of don't really see him pissed like that often. But the offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, at the end of that game, and I'm assuming it was because of the way that they just managed the clock, but he goes just absolute God mode up in the box. Ken Dorsey starts, right after the game, he starts throwing papers around. If the table was flippable, the table would have been flipped. I think it was kind of funny too because like you could tell he was looking for things to throw, but all he had was like papers. So he was just throwing papers around, and then he threw a paper like at the camera, but like, I'm pretty sure once they cut the feed, there had to have been a chair thrown. He had to have gone and found a phone and gone Russell Crowe on somebody. I mean, he was losing his shit. Hilarious. He absolutely losing his mind. But also, not even that, Pat Mahomes had a moment where he was going off on his offensive coordinator after the first half of the Colts game. We're going to get into that game in a second. But Pat Mahomes was screaming at his OC. It was a clock management situation again where they were just kind of getting into it. And then Quinnen Williams, remember him from Alabama? He's playing on the Jets. He got in the face of I don't know if it was his defensive line coach or defensive coordinator or who it was, but man, he was going off. So there was a number of people just losing their shit today. And I love seeing that. Some people are like, man, like bottle that up. Like you can't, freak out like that on the field. I'm like, I don't care. Like these guys are competing at such a high level in such a physical game that like seeing just the raw energy that gets thrown around in these games, I think it's awesome. I love it. Cause like, I mean, I'm doing the same thing in my living room. I just don't have cameras on me. So like, the fact that like, you see these guys just feel it the way that we do in the moment. I love that, man. I think it's awesome. But yeah, tempers were on another level today. Next game. So yeah, Dolphins win that. Tua actually got hurt and then came back, but he got hurt and like he got hit in the head and stood up and looked like he was drunk, just kind of flopping around, wobbling around like his lineman had to kind of hold him up. It was pretty bad. It was a scary sight. I hate seeing those head injuries when those guys just kind of go, baby deer legs afterwards. And yeah, he had that. He definitely had that. Baby deer all the way for Tua, but thankfully he's okay. He did come back, and hey, good on him. He's tough. The Bengals beat the Jets 27-12. Joe Burrow had a better game today, especially in that first game. But yeah, Bengals take care of business in that game. Although that was kind of a fun game to watch too for a while, because let's just check the box score on that real quick. It was. Well, no, it was never really close necessarily, but Joe Flacco just continues to look really good, which is, I think it's shocking to me. I don't think I'm the only one. Oh, next week it's Dolphins-Bengals. Man, Bengals, like, okay, they got a tough schedule. That should be a good game next week. So Titans beat the Raiders 24-22, another really close game there. Derrick Henry finally had a good game today. I drafted him first in the first round in one of my leagues, and he's been underwhelming, but he had a game today. He looked really good, looked strong, looked fast, looked physical. That was awesome. Panthers get is it their first win? Yeah. They beat the Saints today, 22-14. We'll see what the Saints end up doing. That's one of those things where you go, oh man, they're so great coming into the year. Almost lose to the Falcons. lose to the Bucks, although it's Tom Brady, but then they lose to the Panthers. So you see those first 4 weeks, it's like, man, it's like you can't really get an accurate judgment, I don't think, after those first 4 weeks, because expectations and storylines just get thrown out the window, and it is, we just see what it's all about in the first, after that month. So anyways, Ravens beat the Patriots 37-26. The Pats, man, I don't know what they're going to do. They're just not a scary team anymore. How the mighty have fallen. Patriots, you might be in a rebuilding phase, which, hey, welcome to the world of, being an NFL fan. You haven't really had to deal with this for a long time. So is Mac Jones your guy? I'm not sure, but they're just not scary. Nothing about them is scary. So yeah, Ravens take care of business. Lamar Jackson looks great, by the way. He really, it's not all on the Patriots being bad. It's the Ravens look really good too. Vikings beat the Lions. That was a close game, 28-24. That came down to the wire. Eagles smashed the Commanders. The Eagles look great. Jalen Hurts is a beast. And Devontae Smith had an amazing game. That dude finally looks like the Heisman Trophy winner we saw at Alabama. He had a few contested catches, and his route running's fantastic. He's quick. He's strong. He's stronger than I think you would think based on his size. But he looked great today. So the Eagles come out 24-8 over the Commanders. The Colts beat the Chiefs 20-17. And this, I'm going to spend a little time on this because I'm following Matt Ryan closely. Really excited and happy for him. Matt Ryan upsets the Chiefs with a late game drive for a game-winning touchdown pass. With like 15 seconds left or something, he throws a pass to his tight end, rookie tight end, I think. And but he drove him down the field and he got it done. And people forget, people think Matt Ryan, there's always that narrative of like, oh, well, he blew that Super Bowl, and he had started to get into the conversation with like the top 4 best guys in the entire league. And then, he kind of fell out of that conversation as soon as he got to it. Because even when he won the MVP, people were like, he's no Breeze or Brady or Rodgers. And I get it. I understand that. But he's a great quarterback. He has Hall of Fame numbers, and the fact that he's got a lot of late game-winning drives. And so, people forget that about Matt Ryan. He has more game-winning drives in the fourth quarter, I think, than I want to say maybe Steve Young or Dan Marino. There was, I'll have to pull that up at some point. I'm probably not going to in this episode, but there was up against some of the best, quarterbacks in the entire NFL history. Matt Ryan ranks toward the top with late game-winning drives. So he did that again against the Chiefs, and good for him, man. I really hope that he succeeds. Seriously, other than the Falcons, I've got a few teams that I root for different reasons. I like when the Broncos do well. I lived there for 5 years. I lived there when Peyton Manning was there and when they won that Super Bowl, so I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for the Broncos. Broncos country is real, and right now it's also the Colts. I want to see them do well, and they're in the AFC, so it's not really that much of a conflict for me. But big-time Colts fan this year. I hope Matt Ryan does well because the first couple games, they looked horrible. The Bears beat the Texans in a close game, 23-20. Justin Fields, they just don't like him throwing the ball, and it makes sense because he had a couple picks, and he just doesn't look that good when he throws it. But he runs around a lot. He makes a lot of plays. They come out with the win today. The Jags, how about this? Upset of the day. Jags beat the Chargers 38-10. 38-10 in L.A. So I had a friend. I have a buddy from high school, the only diehard Jaguars fan that I've ever met in my entire life. And this dude bleeds, teal and black. He is he's as much of a Jags fan as I'm a Falcons fan. And literally, he is Jags ride or die. It's impressive at how consistent he's been with his fandom. And he called it, man. He said, look, we're going to be good. I know that the joke is the Jags suck, yada, yada. But he put money on that Colts game. He put his money where his mouth is. And he won money on that, and they just destroyed the Colts. What was that, 20-0? And then you go, oh, man, does that mean the Colts suck, or are the Jags actually good? And they just beat a really good Chargers team 38-10. Stomped them. So, Yeah, maybe the Jags have got something going here. I'm just going to check some stats here real quick. How did Trevor Lawrence do? Trevor Lawrence goes 28 for 39 for 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. James Robinson has 17 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown, averaged 5.9 a carry. Etienne goes, so they run the ball a lot, had 13 carries for 45 yards. Yeah, I don't know. What do you say? Shit, kind of like the Browns, I guess, right? When you have that many really high draft picks for that long, it's like you're going to have a good roster. But Doug Peterson, I'm a Doug Peterson fan. I can't believe Philly ran him out of town after he gave them a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. It's insane. Yeah, that's something to keep your eye on. Are the Jags going to actually finally not suck? The Rams beat the Cardinals 20-12. The Packers beat the Bucks in a close game down in Tampa Bay, 14-12. It all came down to the last drive. Tom Brady does like a 13-play, 87-yard drive in the fourth quarter to score what could have been the tying touchdown because they'd only scored 6 points up to that point. They go for 2 after the touchdown pass to Russell Gage, of all people. And they had like a delay of game, and so that pushed them back. And like Tom Brady was like trying to call an audible. I don't know what was going on, but they had to delay a game, and then they get pushed back and they don't convert the 2-point conversion, lose by 2. And hey, Tom Brady went and actually shook Aaron Rodgers' hand. I know he's had a few of those moments where he's like, no, I'm not shaking their hand or whatever, but he did. It was cool, whatever. Packers really came out quick in this game, scored 2 touchdowns really early and just looked like they were going to dominate the Bucks. But then I don't know what happened. The Bucks defense stepped up, I guess, and it ended up being, down to the wire. So what else would you expect with Rodgers and Brady going against each other? So pretty cool stuff there. Of course, the Falcons beat the Seahawks 27-23, and right now, as we speak, Sunday Night Football is in the second quarter, and the 49ers are beating the Broncos 7-3. Ooh, Broncos are playing. I'm going to have to put that on. So there you go. There's an NFL recap for you. Week 3, good stuff. Love it. Absolutely love it. So to wrap up the show, going to be a shorter episode, and I'll give you guys a heads up too. I'm going to do one more episode this week, and then I have to actually go out to Denver for a funeral, unfortunately. So yeah, I will be gone. Probably, I'm going to have an episode for you guys on Wednesday, but then the next one probably won't be until next Monday. But I will be back, and I'll be at the Falcons game, so I'll do a Falcons recap, kind of the same thing as we did today. Last segment we'll go into is just a little bit of Braves for you. So the Braves and the Mets both win. Braves ended up winning 8-7. And I love seeing a score like that because that means our bats are coming alive because our bats got really cold there for a couple of games. But this game went 11 innings. We had some clutch hits late from Acuna and Harris to seal it. Stevens got the save. Need the pitching to lock it in. Morton gives up 6 runs through 4 innings. So, yeah, we need our starting pitching to, find their groove. You still got a few weeks in the regular season to find whatever you need to find, but it's game time, babe. We've got 2 weeks left in the entire season. How crazy is that? So next series, we have 3 games against the Nats, and then the Mets come to town. So right now, we're currently sitting a game and a half back on the Mets. So the Mets, fun fact here, they have 2 games against the Marlins, while we have 3 games against the Nationals before the Mets series. So because we play 1 more game than the Mets during that same stretch, we have a chance to technically catch them by a half a game, assuming we win, of course. Assuming everybody wins. If the Mets win against the Marlins both games, if we sweep the Nats, then we will catch them half a game and be down 1 by the time they come to town. So it's one of those things that if we are down 1 game, we would have to, what's the math? I always get messed up here. We would have to, if we win 2 out of 3, we'd be tied after the Mets series. So either way, we're going to have to sweep them to come out of that with the lead as things stand now. So hopefully the Marlins can pull an upset and the Braves can continue to take care of business against Washington, which they should. But then it flip-flops after the Mets series. We then play the Marlins to end the year, and the Mets play the Nationals. So, it's really coming down to that last series against New York. Can't wait for it. That's going to be so much fun. I'm probably going to be out of town, actually, for a lot of that series. But I'm going to be following it. I'm going to be watching what I can. Really excited to see that. So go Braves. At this point, like I've said before, hats off to the Mets. I've talked a lot of trash about the New York Mets. I love doing it. I'll probably ramp that rhetoric up here right before, maybe next episode I'll do a little Mets trashing. But, in all seriousness, behind the silliness that is the shit talking that's involved with being a fan, Mets are a great team, and they've just consistently kept us at bay all year long. So good for them. They've got great pitching. Their lineup is legit. So, what better way to end the year than two of the top teams in the league duking it out for the division? So can't wait for that. Go Braves, go Falcons, go Dogs, and go Hawks. I mean, go everybody. Go you. Go you. So to end the show, your trivia answer, if you remember the trivia question at the beginning of the show, it was, what Falcons coach has the most wins in franchise history? What Falcons coach has the most wins ever in Atlanta Falcons franchise history? And the answer to that question is Mike Smith. He is both the longest tenured and winningest coach. He had a 66-46 record from 2008 to 2014. Longest coach we've ever had. So that's 6 years. Well, maybe it's technically 7 if you count the 08, 09, 10, 7. Okay. I liked Mike Smith. He was good. Especially like the year that he came in. It was Matt Ryan's first year because I think he took over. Oh, is that what happened? Remember when that clown, idiot, asshole, Bobby Petrino left in the middle of the season in like 07 to go coach in college? What an idiot. Middle of the season just went, I quit. It's like, what do you mean you quit? You what? You quit? It's a firefighter is putting out a fire in your house and then goes home. It's like, no, sorry, I'm clocking out. I'm done. I don't feel like doing this anymore. What do you mean? The whole house is on fire. That's what this guy did. And then Mike Smith came in after that, ended up really turning around the franchise quickly because we got Matt Ryan immediately after that. But then, with coaching and good free agency pickups, good trades, good drafts, we got Julio shortly thereafter. Got guys like Michael Turner, Tony Gonzalez. The front office really did some really good things for a long time for us. Mike Smith. I'm a Mike Smith fan. I liked him. And right after his tenure was up in 2014, then began the Dan Quinn era. And that lasted all the way up until what we've seen lately, which is now the Arthur Smith era. Can Arthur Smith change history for the Falcons? Because the last two coaches, and here you go, here's a good trajectory for you. I'll end with this. Mike Smith, his best year took us to the NFC Championship. We lost to San Francisco, and they ended up losing to Baltimore in that Super Bowl. That's the blackout Super Bowl in New Orleans. New Orleans stinks. Terrible town. Can't even keep the power on in a Super Bowl. Then Dan Quinn comes in, takes us to the Super Bowl. Of course, we don't need to mention what happened there, but we all know. So the trajectory is laid out, or the path is laid out. It is carved for Arthur Smith to now bring us to the promised land. God, I hope that he does. But yeah, Mike Smith had 66 wins. And just to put that in perspective, Don Shula, who has the most wins in NFL history, has 347 wins. 347 for Don Shula. Absolutely insane. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Have an awesome week, y'all. Happy Monday. Go make someone's day today. No better way to get out of your own head than to try and just be of service to someone else. So hold the door open for someone. Give someone a compliment. Give somebody a call that maybe you've thought about calling for a long time and just haven't. Whether it's your parents, an old friend, or someone that you think might need a call. Who knows what it could be. But you know what? Put yourself out there. Be other-centered in your life, and the rewards will be fruitful. So, love you guys. Have a good one, and I will see you on Wednesday. See ya.